Hello, hello. Hope everyone can hear us okay. Very warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time, or for anyone who is returning for a subsequent venture. And we'll get started at 1 o'clock.
How are you? How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Sarah?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, nice to see you on this rainy Monday.
Yeah, it's a very rainy Monday. Great. Okay, so very warm welcome to everybody today. Just for introductions, I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm the nutritionist with the Boots online doctor service and also a registered nurse and health and wellness coach. I'm very excited to be here with you today. We're going to be talking all about metabolism and if there are any strategies we can put in place to help with that. It's such an important element. Just to remind you, we share evidence-based information. We're really trying to cut through all of the confusing messages that we're all bombarded with all of the time. We want to provide you with some insight information from what the research tells us, to really get rid of any of those questions and queries and to get rid of the chaos that we can be presented with. I'm very excited to welcome back to our lifestyle medicine webinars, Sarah. Sarah, it's great to be here. Great to have you here with us.
Thanks, Ruth. Really, really nice to be back again. And for everyone that's new to the webinars or is new over the last 6 months, I'll just do a quick introduction. I'm Dr. Sarah Baker. I'm a GP for the Boots online doctor team. I've got a background in physiotherapy and a specialist interest in lifestyle medicine. So it's a real thrill to be back and presenting again with Ruth today. And we are going to be talking about, as we said, how to boost your metabolism. So, a really, really great subject, really kind of important for everyone that's here today. And
Brilliant.
hopefully, we'll help providing you with lots of new information.
Fantastic. And also, just to let everyone know, we have wonderful Jagita working with us today in the background. So, for any IT problems, and if you've brought any questions along with you already, please do add them into the Q&A box. Just for the format, just so everybody's aware, we will share a few slides over the next 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll move on to taking your questions. Just to be really clear, if you have any medical questions which are very specific about medical conditions, they are not something that we can answer in the sort of whole webinar format. This needs to be directed to your medical team, whether that's a Boots Online doctor or your GP or elsewhere, just really to be aware of that. But anything that's generic or general, we're very happy to help you with. Great. So, yes. We'd love to know from you. What would you like to know? What's brought you along today? Our goal is very much to support you on your weight loss journeys, and we're really interested to hear from you. What's brought you along today? We share a couple of polls during the webinars. Some of you may be already aware of that. They're completely anonymous. It is really for us to know what's brought you, as much as really for us to share with one another and to share with you at the end of the poll what's going on for everybody else. So, what is it that you are wanting to focus on? Is it that you want to lose weight for the first time? Is this a sort of you've regained weight in the past and you want to get this right for the last time? Have you got some health issues that you want to focus on? Have you got some ideas about what you're going to do to get healthy? Are there any things that are going to sabotage you along the road? It's really important for us to start thinking about all of these things. And have you got some ideas already about what you might want to do with yourselves? And hopefully, we'll layer in for that for you today. I can see around only a small number of you have participated in this so far. We'll give it a couple of minutes to see how we get on. We can see we've got quite a lot of people here, so probably only about 30% so far. So let's try and get a few more of you answering. It's sort of really interesting information for us to share as well. So we want to be thinking about our metabolism and we want to really be myth busting, don't we, Sarah? So we'll
Do indeed. Yes. I think to start with, we'll touch on what the metabolism is, just to get everyone on an even playing field. So, metabolism is how your body converts the food we eat into energy. And all of the tissues in the body need energy to function, but some need more than others. Metabolism is affected by lots of different factors. There's some that you can control, and there's some that are beyond your control. And the ones that are beyond our control, I'll just kind of go through, and they're the gender, genetics, our age, hormones, body temperature, and for women, the menstrual cycle. And all of these factors contribute to our resting metabolism. Our resting metabolism is about 75% of the total metabolic rate. So it includes the calories we use to help support the vital functions of the body, things like breathing, the blood circulation, our organ function, and our basic brain activity. The rest, the other 25% or the other quarter of the metabolism comes from two factors, and that's the thermic effect of food. So the energy that we use to digest, to absorb, and to metabolize food, and also from physical activity. So the energy that we expend during our sort of day-to-day activities and during exercise. Now, many people will be familiar with yo-yo dieting, and this is a webinar we do specifically. But yo-yo dieting is losing and regaining weight quite quickly and repeatedly, and that can have a really negative impact on your metabolism. It can slow it down, and that's mainly due to the effects that it has on the body's composition. So your kind of ratio of muscle to fat, etc. And for those of you that are struggling to lose weight, it may indicate that you actually have a slightly lower metabolism. But the really great news for everyone is you can positively affect your metabolism. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. I don't know if Ruth, you want to go back to the poll first or whether you want to sort of crack on.
Yeah, I'm going to share the results so we can all see what's going on for everyone who's here today. So a lot of you have taken part in the poll, so it's really interesting. So I can see that a lot of people have really clearly motivated for the weight loss, which is great to see, around 92% of you. And then the much smaller percentage, you're not sure what your motivation is, and some of you are struggling to find that motivation. So thank you. Maybe worth really thinking about what your motivation is. The research tells us that when we're motivated, when we have a clear reason, when we have a clear why, it can really help us through those sticking points and through those more challenging moments in that whole weight loss journey. Around 70% of you who are here today have answered that you've regained all the weight that you've lost in the past. So it is really helpful to be thinking about metabolism. And as Sarah said, that yo-yo diet effect, the sort of losing weight and regaining weight, can be instrumental in slowing down your metabolism. So we're going to be talking about what we can do about that. It's really important. Your why, a lot of people are looking at reducing their blood pressure. Some people are pre-diabetic. People are suffering with their energy. People want to become more physically active. A lot of people are focusing on their appearance and just to feel good about yourselves. It's really important. I can see around 40% of you feel quite confident that you can lose weight, which is great to hear, and around 50% of you less confident. So it's really good to see, and hopefully you can see what everybody else is going on and that you're not alone in this journey at all. So do have a think about that. And if you're struggling to think of your motivation, stick with us. Hopefully we'll find some inspiration for you. So, what about rapid and repeat weight loss? Goodness me. So, what we know is that all of our weight loss can affect and alter our metabolic weight. So, what we know is extreme weight loss or rapid weight loss can result in muscle as well as fat loss. And that is the thing that we know is an important factor to be considering in this whole sort of cycle of weight management. So if we lose muscle, we will potentially have a shift in our metabolism in a less positive way. So if we lose weight really quickly, we lose fat and muscle mass, our metabolism is likely to be affected. What we know is that muscle burns more calories than fat, so losing muscle can have that effect of reducing your metabolic weight. So that whole yo-yo dieting, the sort of weight loss, regain, and weight loss again. I know this myself really well, so this is something I'm really having to work on, is that sort of muscle mass and really working on my metabolism. So factors that you consider looking at home to understand what's going on with your metabolism. Not everybody has got those calipers, but if you're lucky enough, some people have got those scales which measure weight and body fat percentage. So the higher your body fat percentage, the more likely your metabolism is likely to be low. And that could be that you have increased visceral fat as well. But things you can do if you don't have those funky scales is you can consider checking your pulse every now and then. So the lower our resting heart rate would indicate that our metabolism is at a healthier level. So that indicates that we have better cardiovascular fitness and a more efficient metabolism. And how we'd recommend that you measure that is to take your pulse before you get out of bed in the morning. And you can find your pulse just at the base of your thumb. And we would recommend just popping two fingers over that area and just feeling your pulse very gently. Don't pressure too hard, otherwise, you won't be able to feel it. And just get used to doing that every now and then throughout the day. Just check in if you can find your pulse. And then we would recommend that you count it for a whole 60 seconds. And that can give you an understanding of what your pulse rate is. It's also really interesting to do that for our general health as well. We can also calculate our basal metabolic rate. So this can be something that we can use to figure out the sort of calorific or the caloric intake that we need. It doesn't measure metabolism directly, but it can sort of help you work out how many calories you'd need to maintain your weight. And then you can remove a certain number to work out how much you would need to eat. And if you're really struggling with weight loss for any reason, it is worth just checking that occasionally and seeing where you're at in terms of whether you've lost weight. Your calorie intake may need to be thinking about reducing. And then things like your body temperature. So you can also think about your body temperature. And if you're constantly feeling cold, that could be an indication that perhaps your metabolism is a little bit lower. And those are things that you can talk through with your GP as well. And then finally, I'd really suggest that you have a look at your energy and just observe how your energy is, how your weight is, and really if that can give you a bit of a clue to your metabolism. If you're constantly feeling lethargic or sluggish, then it could be that your metabolism isn't working particularly well for you. So if you're really struggling with fatigue all of the time, then this webinar will hopefully help with all of those issues as well. Sarah, back over to you. I hope that made sense.
Great,
What's
thank you. That was really good information. I think lots of people also have the heart rate tracking watches, so that's
Oh
also
yeah,
good.
brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, we just wanted to touch on the benefits of activity for weight loss. I think there's a huge number of benefits to regular activity, but we know that you're really here to understand how it kind of impacts on weight maintenance, weight loss. And exercise is fantastic at increasing the metabolism. So, as we said before, different tissues in the body need different amounts of energy, and muscle is one of those very metabolically active tissues. So, it's using up lots of energy when it's being used and when it's at rest, whereas fat tissue requires much less energy. So if you already exercise or if you're just starting to exercise, and you're sort of trying to build your muscle, you're naturally going to be starting to build that as you exercise more. So as you're getting fitter and stronger, you're going to be burning more energy even when you're at rest, which is why exercise is so fantastic to maintain weight loss. Lots of people notice when they first start exercising, they'll get a sudden boost in weight loss, not for everybody, but for most people. And that eventually starts to stabilize. Don't be disheartened by the stabilization. Your muscle is still having a really, really fantastic effect on maintaining your new weight. Exercise has also got lots of other benefits, which are really important to recognise. They help you feel generally better by producing chemicals in the brain, which are called neurotransmitters, and they can improve mood and reduce anxiety. We're not focusing on sleep today, but regular exercise is also fantastic for helping to improve the quality of your sleep, which correlates very strongly with weight loss, weight maintenance, and weight gain. So, really good for the sleep as well. So yeah, just a couple of the benefits, but we recognise that you're really here to kind of focus on doing sort of activity for weight maintenance and weight loss.
Very much. And we thought it would be helpful to talk about some of the foods and drinks that we know can be helpful for looking at supporting a healthier metabolism. So we talk a lot in the webinars about food, and we do have a couple of webinars which are specifically all around food and how to eat. If you've not been to those, there are some pre-recordings that you can access either on the Boots Online Doctor or on YouTube for some of those. But really need to start thinking about protein. Now, we talk about protein fairly regularly. We know that eating adequate protein can really help in terms of supporting a healthier metabolism and can be helpful for successful weight loss. It can also help you feel a little bit fuller. So if you're struggling with hunger, this may be something to really put some energy and some focus on. We would recommend that as a minimum, you're aiming for zero point 0.8 of a gram per kilogram of your body weight. And if you know your weight in stones and pounds, then just do a simple online conversion to get your kilogram and then multiply that by 0.8. Generally, that's quite a sort of baseline recommendation. If people are doing a large amount of exercise, they may need to increase that. So that would be the baseline sort of recommendation. We know that for some people, excessive protein intake can be really problematical, especially if you have problems with your kidneys or you have any metabolic diseases. So if you have anything going on in terms of long-term health, it may be worth checking in with your health provider. Other foods that we know that may be helpful to support your metabolism, and this is based on the research that we've looked at and what we have found. So goji berries, something like eating 14 grams per day may be helpful at reducing abdominal fat. So there's something that you could add into one of your meals, pop it into a salad or have it as a sort of little sweeter, but they're not the sweetest berry, I have to say. Dessert, they tend to be well, dried. Chili contains capsicum, which can help to improve insulin sensitivity. So that may also help to support weight loss. Ginger, adding some ginger into hot water might be something that's really nice to drink. And some suggestions are that it may help with weight loss. Green tea is something I have learnt to enjoy. It took me quite a long time, Sarah, to get my taste buds orientated around green tea, but it's
With you.
in it called epigallocatechin gallate. I can't say that too often, which has got really strong anti-inflammatory properties. A lot of research around the benefits of green tea for multiple health problems, and something that we would really recommend, and may positively influence our ability to burn fat. The key is here, though, is staying hydrated. Really important. All of the research that we've read about hydration and weight loss suggests that actually, if we are adequately hydrated, and you can tell that by the colour of your wee. So you want your wee to be like a pale straw colour, generally speaking, across the course of the day. And we know if you're adequately hydrated, it can really help with fat burning. Equally, if we're dehydrated, we are going to find it more difficult to burn fat. So that's a really important tip. And if you're really struggling to lose weight or to bring your fat percentage down, these are things to consider about. Some other foods that might help to support metabolism, things like avocados and nuts. But I think the key here is consistency. If we're sort of doing that yo-yo effect, it can have quite a damning effect on our ability to lose weight and also on our metabolism. So we want you to find a way that you can eat. And we'd really recommend that you follow something like the core meal plan that we've created for you, or also the Mediterranean style of eating can be helpful because it's got all of those anti-inflammatory fats. So for some people, really focusing on reducing inflammation can be quite a helpful strategy as well. So yes, Sarah, over to you.
Right, so we've talked a little bit about benefits. Thank you, Ruth. Sorry, I think there's a bit of a delay with the internet. We've talked a little bit about the benefits of activity weight loss. So I wanted to just bring the conversation back to activity and talk about what counts as activity. Well, I think pretty much a little bit out of breath or a bit sweaty. So kind of easy, low barrier to entry things to do would be something like walking, particularly brisk walking. Other things might be cleaning the house, dancing, swimming, playing with the kids outside, kicking a football around. Possibilities are endless. So it needs, as I said for get up, get you a little bit out of breath, and the more it does those things, the better. I wanted to nod to resistance, increase the muscle strength, increase the muscle bulk, and really, really support your metabolism. Now, resistance exercise is anything that's causing your muscle to work against a force or a weight. So it could be something like using the resistance bands. It could be using your own body weight to do things like squats or press ups. It could be using free weights like dumbbells or kettlebells, or if you don't have that kind of equipment accessible to you, you could just fill up a water bottle and then use a water bottle as the dumbbells. It could be using resistance machines, so training machines like a cross trainer. Like I said, anything that's making your muscles work against a force or a weight. And I appreciate there's going to be people that are a little bit less mobile out there. And if that applies to you, then maintaining muscle mass is equally, if not more important to you. And you can do that at rest with things like biceps curls or just kind of passive limb exercises. And I think the NHS has got some really good exercises that we could probably dig out a link for if that's helpful for you. But in all its forms, introducing more movement into your daily life is going to have a huge impact. But I would suggest keeping it simple, easy, and something that you enjoy so that you are kind of motivated to stick with it. And I think we've got a free gift, which is an activity planner that we're going to share in the chat box as well. So hopefully that's coming there. And thank you for sharing the NHS link as well.
Brilliant. That's great. Yeah. So a little bit more about resistance exercise. I don't think we need to go over this too much because I think we're all beginning to understand how important that resistance exercise is. We know that not incorporating resistance exercise or building muscle leads to an increased probability of the faster weight regain. So that is something we want to prevent for everybody. When we did the poll earlier, a huge percentage of people here today had lost weight in the past and regained it. We want this to not keep happening for you. We want to help you get this on track and really get a sense of it. And just using your own body weight can be a really important part of that resistance exercise, just so you don't have to have really expensive equipment. You don't have to go to a gym. You can do a lot of things at home. And we know that it also can help to prevent that age-related muscle loss, which can be one of the reasons that our metabolism slows naturally as we age. So I think, when we're told that we're going to have a lower metabolism as we get older, it's probably slightly false science. I think if we all were told when we're younger that we need to be a bit more active as we get older, we could probably preserve our metabolism a little bit more. So that's just my thought. What do you think, Sarah?
I absolutely agree. And I think, sorry, the other thing we hadn't touched on is how much should we be doing of the resistance exercise? And I would suggest to try and incorporate it at least 3 times a week. For some of you that haven't been doing any, maybe building up to that slowly would be beneficial, but aim for 3 times a week for at least 20 minutes. Really important.
Yeah, really important. And also just start with a small amount, even if you did 10 minutes or 5 minutes initially, and then you built up your time, that would be equally beneficial. And it just helps you also feel quite positive that you're doing something to make a difference. And I think that boosts us psychologically as well, doesn't it?
And I think the energy that you get from that is kind of a real positive reinforcement. So you'll start to notice that the more of these type of exercises you do.
Definitely.
Okay, so there's loads of hidden health benefits of exercise. We're obviously very focused on weight loss, but as well as weight loss, or weight maintenance, I should say, is really the key thing. We're also going to be improving our heart health, reducing our risk of diabetes, and improving our mood through exercise. But there's some other factors that have also sort of been shown in the research that we get as a positive benefit of exercise. And that's improving the composition of our gut microbiota, which I think lots of people probably wouldn't realize. It also helps improve our hormone balance as well as our skeletal and muscle strength. So just kind of going back to the gut microbiota, there's 2 families of gut microbiome. There, excuse the pronunciation, it might be incorrect, but Firmicutes and Bacteroides. And exercise has been found to increase the population of the Bacteroides. The Firmicutes is linked to obesity, but that bacteroides are found to are found to help with weight loss. And we know that they naturally decrease with age. So doing regular exercise is really going to help to promote and boost these gut microbiota. And having a high population of the bacteroides helps to reduce the uptake of calories from food and therefore helps us to lose weight. It also has a positive effect, stimulating the production of a hormone, PYY is the hormone, that helps to reduce our appetite. So, really, really important. There's also sort of other far-reaching effects on the gut microbiome. It's also been shown that by exercising, and promoting the production of these really positive gut microbiota, that we reduce the risk of colon cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, and also diverticulosis. So if we think about what foods can we eat to help boost the bacteroides, the foods that we'll be thinking of are plant-based foods that are high in fiber, as well as incorporating some of the fermented foods. And when I say fermented foods, I mean things like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, apple cider vinegar, sourdough bread. That would be a few examples. So make sure you're trying to build those in. If you don't have them at the moment, just build them in slowly. But really, plant-based foods that are high in fiber are fantastic for the gut microbiome. Another hidden benefit is helping to reduce the risk of dementia. And that's come sort of in research more recently that it's really, really beneficial for that. So as we exercise, we're getting more blood flowing around the body, more blood flowing up to the brain, which helps with the connections between the nerve cells in the brain, helping to improve our memory. And there's also some new research showing that parts of the brain used for memory are increasing in size with exercise. So overall, it's helping to improve our brain function and reducing the risk of dementia. And the research shows that's by about 30%. So it has a really, really positive impact. So,
It's
yeah.
amazing, isn't it? Really, it's amazing how we just need to learn these things now and maybe for as young as possible as well. So it's really interesting that the sort of current research about being more active, getting moving, really is pinpointing how unhealthy it is for us if we are inactive. And what they now are suggesting is that inactivity is being compared to the effect of smoking, and is increasing the risk of many health conditions which are linked to sort of having long-term health issues or a sort of premature death, which is really considering. So we really need to put some effort into some thought. I think naturally a lot of people are quite inactive, and we know that looking at the research in the UK, a large proportion of people aren't meeting those sort of baseline activity goals. It could be that that's because you have health conditions that are preventing you. So obviously that makes it much more challenging, or can make it more challenging. But also for many people, it's just about their lifestyle and their habit. So I guess we all need to really sort of do some thinking about where we sit in terms of that continuum. The recommendation from the UK government is that we're all doing a minimum of something like 150 minutes of activity a week. And that can be broken down into little bite-sized chunks. So it could be 30 minutes 5 times a week. Or if you find 30 minutes too much, you could do sort of 15 lots of 10 minutes. I mean, it really is down to you to find a way in terms of boosting your own activity. And I think looking at the research, about 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 men are really being classified as being inactive in the UK. And that means they're not really getting that 30 minutes 5 times a week. But you can change all of that. And I think that's the key thing. And if we are focusing our attention on our health and improving our long-term weight loss in terms of this being a weight loss journey that is going to last, then hopefully the understanding of how important this is becoming really clear today. So yeah, Sarah, I think you touched on this earlier. So how much do you think you would recommend people start with? I think we've probably more or less covered this.
Absolutely, I agree. I just want sort of people to remember that this is about them, and it's not a race, it's not a competition. Think about where you are now and where you need to get to be at that recommended 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular activity, and where you need to get to be at that resistance training 3 times a week. So have a think about where you are, make a plan. Um, make small kind of bite-sized chunk goals and then have the end goal and set yourself reminders. So if you haven't done anything at all and 150 minutes sounds like a mountain to climb, then break it down. Think about maybe doing 10 minutes 2 to 3 times a day in small chunks and make it something that's simple, easy, and achievable for you to do. That might just be taking a brisk walk around the block. It might be jumping on a bike. It might be kicking a football around with your kids, whatever it is. But make a realistic target that you can stick to and something that's not going to be too daunting. And then try and build up to that 20 to 30 minutes, 5 times a day, and make sure you're doing that regularly. And the same with resistance training. So it's all about setting realistic goals and picking something you enjoy. I think the research also shows that you're more likely to stick with your activity goals if you, one, makes the activity fun, but also do it with somebody or have an accountability partner. So if there's someone that you know that wants to get more active, if there's a member of a family, if there's a friend, anybody that you can think of that also wants to get a little bit fitter, a bit more active, then try and include them in what you're doing. I think you'll find that a really, really powerful tool. And it's really important as well to celebrate your success. This is something that's hugely challenging for many people. So make sure you're giving yourself a really good pat on the back when you meet those goals, whether they're the small goals or the massive goals, but you do need to keep the goals nice and small and realistic so that you get that recommended 150 minutes over the course of a week and the resistance training 3 times a week. I think I'd also say that I particularly like exercising when I'm either listening to music or a podcast. So if that motivates you, maybe that's something to do. Maybe you can use exercise as your time out of the day, your time away from all of the other kind of chaos that's going on, and just have that as kind of really kind of you time and really fulfilling time. And you will start to notice that you feel so much more energetic, so much better in your mood, and a lot calmer if you can incorporate regular exercise into your day and into your week.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. So, yeah, we're almost at the end of our slides. So, just wanted to share with you our final poll. And great. Let's have a look. Let's see how everybody's feeling about this. Be really interesting to know what you're going to do differently this week as a result of coming along to today's webinar. Have we inspired you to do anything differently? And we'll be coming to your questions very shortly. And while you're doing a couple of minutes having a look at that, I'll also just share the next couple of dates. I saw there was a question about menopause and whether that affected weight management. We actually have a whole webinar next week on weight loss strategies for perimenopause and menopause for anyone who's interested in that. And then on the 14th of October, we're going to be looking at the psychology of weight loss. So thank you very much for those of you who've taken part in the poll. I can see that the most popular thing that everyone is going to be doing, although we don't know who's doing what, of course, is that you are going to be drinking more water. So thank you. I'm going to end the poll and I should be able to share the results with you. So great. We are going to stop sharing our slides now and we will come over to your questions. Thank you, everyone. Great. So let's have a look.
So I think, sorry, there's just a mention from Tracy. Please can I have the slides? We do actually have all of the webinars loaded up to the Boots Online Doctor webpage and also on YouTube. So I think we could, Chiquita, if you wouldn't mind sharing those, that would be helpful. But I don't think we don't share the slides directly.
What we've started doing in the last couple of weeks is we will send out an email to everybody who has come along to or registered for today's webinar. So we will send a link to the YouTube video, so you'll get that. But we don't share the slides, but you'll get a recording of the webinar. So hopefully that's been happening in the last couple of weeks. So if for any reason you haven't had that, do let us know. But yeah, you'll get the fresh recordings. Okay.
We've got another comment. I'm 61. It feels like my gender, genetics, and age are all against me losing weight. Do I simply accept this as me? Absolutely not. Hopefully, the webinar today has gone through a number of things that you can do to help improve your overall body composition, to help you feel really good, and to help with weight loss. Just a few of those would be the increasing how much activity you're doing with a particular focus on resistance or strength building training, making sure that you're also having enough protein to support that training, making sure that you're eating all the right types of food, which we've kind of talked about over the number of weeks, making sure you stay well hydrated, making sure that your sleep is optimal. There's so many things that you can do that you definitely don't need to accept that suboptimal aging is for you. It's absolutely not. Ruth, do you
Absolutely.
want
I
to add anything to
completely agree with you on that. I mean, no, age is not really the reason anymore. If you think you've got probably, hopefully, another 20, 30 years ahead of you, we want that to be vibrant and we want this to be a great phase of your life. So really and truly, okay, Carol, thanks for letting us know. I'll have a look. So I'm not sure what's happened with that. I'll speak to our IT team. Um, yeah, we want this just to, it might become a little bit more challenging, but I think it isn't, it is that consistency. It's about finding things that you enjoy doing, having fun with it, making it something that you can do regularly so that it doesn't become, something infrequent. Really get your head around how to eat in a way which is sustainable and something you can enjoy. If there are foods that you are eating that aren't doing any good, maybe, think about making those treat foods so that
joining us a minute? Hi, Ruth. I think hopefully your reception is a little
I was thinking about
bit
moving, might relocate.
better now. So already touched on this. Would be the ideal minimum if you can do that for about 20 minutes. Are you with us, Ruth?
I am here, but I'm going to relocate quickly, okay? Okay.
Okay, I think Ruth is still
Don't worry, I'm coming. I don't understand why that is behaving like that.
weight loss. I would suggest that nobody needs weight loss injections absolutely to lose weight. For some people, it can be a useful tool in kickstarting their weight loss journey if they've been having problems, but that should be discussed with either your GP. It's not necessary, it's not a
Have we got Wi-Fi?
and people do not need it to lose weight. Okay, that's that question. So what is a food symptom journal? So that's really just making a recording of the foods that you're eating and how that correlates to the way that you feel, energy levels, the way that you feel in your body, how that food kind of suits you and sits with you. Do you eat certain things and you feel that you've got tummy cramps, that you feel that you're low in energy, that you feel there's a correlation with the way that you are sleeping? So for example, certain things like having a glass of wine might actually make you feel more sleepy initially, but then you'll feel a bit more groggy in the morning because you're not sleeping as well. So that's, food and drink all contribute to how you feel. So a food symptom journal is just marrying up how you feel after you've eaten certain foods. I don't know if you want to add to that, Ruth. I think you're back with us.
I'm back. Oh, no, nothing to add for that one. I'm just wondering where you've got to in the questions, but have you answered all of the ones?
No, not by any means. So we've got the anonymous attendee, is starvation mode a myth? Do you want to touch on that one? You can eat too few
Yeah.
calories. Does it slow your metabolism?
Yes,
Would you
actually that.
like
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Sarah. Orientation of that. Yes, very much so. We have read that actually you can do this thing. We talked about this in the sort of like how to eat webinar. So you might want to catch up on the recording of that. So you can do a thing where you alternate how much you eat. So you can have lower calories some days, but we don't want that to be consistent. The recommendation is that you sort of find your midline point really, and that you don't crunch your calories really low all of the time. And the suggestion is that can have a negative effect long term on our metabolism. So we know that what will happen is your sort of caloric intake would adjust down in relation to matching the calories that you've been eating. So you need to be really cautious with that. So we would very much recommend that you don't crash your calories down routinely. You can do that sort of alternate day fasting if that works for you. Some people find they feel fantastic doing that. Other people feel really rubbish. So it's a little bit more individualized. So some people like to have those sort of lower calorie days every now and then, or even just flexing the sort of calorie intake around the week. If you've got special occasions, perhaps you're going to be having some extra treats, then that might be the time to think about cutting the back the day before or the day after. So yeah, generally we would recommend not having low calories all of the time.
Okay, what is an ideal body fat percentage? I might need to cross-reference this. I don't know if you know the numbers off the top of your head, Ruth, but for men it's a little bit lower than women. I believe for men it's about mid-20s would be sort of an ideal body fat percentage. But this is all about thinking about where you are now and where it's realistic for you to get to, and what kind of body fat kind of percentage and weight you can sustain. So I'd focus not so much on the body fat percentage itself, but what you're doing around that. So how you're eating, how much you're exercising, how you're sleeping, the kind of beverages that you're having. Are you hydrating enough? That's where I would suggest the focus should be, not on the body fat percentage. But for women, I think it would be in the 30s. I think it's sort of about 32 to
Yeah,
30.
sort of
Like,
around sort of like between 25 and 32-ish% would be a sort of average for women, and less than that for men. For men, it's sort of up to around 25%, so sort of 18 to 25.
these things will depend on, what age you are as a woman, because that
Mm.
tends to go up a little bit as you get a bit older. So there are kind of variables within that. But like I said, try not to make particular numbers a focus. Try and make it your lifestyle, how you're eating, how you're exercising, how you're sleeping, the kind of psychological factors around how you feel about yourself and food as the focus, rather than weight or particular numbers in themselves.
Yeah, so yeah, an interesting question about cold water swimming affecting the muscles. I think perhaps it's more about your ability to um, alternate your pulse rate and drop down your pulse. But Sarah, have you got any more particular insights into that? I would say it's more about the sort of reducing inflammation systemically in your body. And actually, some interesting research that's just been published is that it isn't something that's ideal for everyone. And the sort of proven benefits are yet to be really clearly understood. So I think it isn't necessarily not everybody will benefit from cold water swimming. So I think there needs to be more research.
Yeah, I think that covers that. So we've got a question more related to medication. So we'll probably not go into this in too much detail, but the question was asking whether weight loss medications you need to take forever, and if you stop them, are you likely to regain the weight? There has been suggestion that weight loss medication might need to be taken sort of indefinitely for some people. There's current licensing around weight loss medication that in the UK is you take it for up to 2 years. There's obviously sort of exceptions around that, and the guidance is changing all the time. Um, and for some people, yes, they may regain weight when they stop taking weight loss medication. They may kind of regain the weight that they've lost and some. But I would say that strongly depends on what you have done around your weight loss to try and support the weight loss. So if you've addressed dietary factors, if you've addressed emotional factors, if you're exercising regularly, then there's no reason once you've lost the weight that you shouldn't keep it off.
Great. Okay. Somebody's asked a question about gallstones and intermittent fasting. I saw the question. I can't see it again. I don't know if you've moved it, Sarah. So somebody asked before if intermittent fasting can affect your risk of gallstones. Looking at the research, it appears that there may be a slight increased risk of gallstones with intermittent fasting. And that seems to be because one of the things that intermittent fasting may do is increase the speed at which you lose weight. And we know that fast weight loss can also increase the risk of gallstones. So we'd very much be recommending that you think about being consistently following that sort of low carbohydrate approach, the Mediterranean style of approach. And it may also be something to do with when you're fasting, your body doesn't have to produce bile. And that's one of the things that you need to be keeping your gallbladder working well. So it may just be that that is something that doesn't really work, ideally, for somebody who is prone to gallstones or has gallstones as well. Um, cool. So somebody's asking about MCT oil. Any thoughts on that? Sorry, Sarah.
I will defer to you on MCT oil. It's not my
Yeah.
specialist area at all.
There's some, yes. So what I've read about MCT oil is that it can prolong fasting periods. So we can actually add some MCT oil into hot drinks such as coffee, and it can sort of prolong a fasting period. It's really just another healthy fat. Coconut oil will work equally. I think that's an MCT oil as well. I might have to go and double check the research around that. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with MCT oil. I think it can be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. A question around how can postmenopausal women improve muscle tone when many women have low testosterone? Does HRT support retention of muscle? So in terms of improving muscle tone, then I would suggest that really taking a good focus on resistance training, and maybe for you doing resistance training more than 3 times a week would be beneficial, and also focusing on your protein intake and ensuring that your protein intake supports the building of that new muscle. Postmenopausally, I'd say, depending on whether you've got any other medical conditions, as a generic answer, 1 gram per kilogram is where you should be aiming. We don't routinely do low testosterone replacement. So, yeah, but does HRT support retention of muscle? I think indirectly it does. So it might be something that's worth a discussion with your GP or with your with Boots Online doctor, whoever your sort of potential HRT provider is. But I would say really the main things for you would be focusing on doing that resistance training and looking at your diet.
Yeah, a couple of comments in the chat box about belly fat and that being quite a resistant area to lose weight. Even though people are losing weight, it can often be because of higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol that you are accumulating fat, and it can also be a sign of a lack of sensitivity to insulin. So it's really worth thinking about eating in a way to promote insulin sensitivity, because that can help both with stress management and with sort of the belly fat. A lot of women will find that that is perhaps one of the last areas to improve, which is quite frustrating. Might be worth talking to a personal trainer or somebody and just asking if there are any particular exercises that would be helpful to tone that area as well. But yeah, I think from an eating perspective, really balance your hormones as much as you possibly can. And if you balance your insulin levels, then that will in turn help to balance the stress hormones. We do have a whole webinar all about stress management and weight loss, and I think that's plugged in for some time in November. So hopefully you'll be able to come along to that as well.
Okay. Next question. Does Pilates or yoga build muscle? It's probably not the best exercise to be doing to build muscle, but it's very good at maintaining muscle strength and helping with balance and flexibility. But to build muscle, I'd say really it's more about the resistance training, doing weights and doing weights. Do you want to add to that, Ruth? Or
Sorry, I think you've probably covered that. So yeah, no, let's cool. Let's see what else we have got going on here. So somebody missed the webinar. Didn't get the link, but we'll check it out on YouTube. It will definitely be on YouTube. So thank you for that. Um, sorry, you didn't
does
get the link.
drinking lots of tea count as plenty of fluid? I mean, it certainly is fluid, but tea, if you're drinking caffeinated tea, does have a slight diuretic effect. So the things you really want to be targeting are kind of water, maybe adding a little bit of lemon to it, or lime, or herbal teas for a bit of flavour. But if you're thinking of sort of an English breakfast caffeinated tea, I'd probably say that's not the best source of hydration.
Great. Somebody's asking about hypnosis, whether it can be helpful for addressing emotional eating as well as having counselling. I believe for some people will find that helpful. I think it is about, I think if you're an emotional eater, one of the things I think can be helpful is almost creating some rules for yourself, and actually just making sure you've got the right food available and the wrong food is somewhere really less available. And that's totally oversimplifying it. And I don't mean it in any oversimplified way, but just simply you need to create the environment that's going to help you as well. And I think when you've had a pattern of being an emotional eater for years, it can be that your cupboards just, we can learn where that food is. We can learn where we've put the food that we really don't want to eat. But when you're having a stressful time or an emotional, you're sort of having a time when you are going to be at risk of emotionally eating, you just don't want to be grabbing that food quite so easily. It can make a significant difference to move things around in your house. Somebody's saying that they're tired even after sleeping. And one of the things that we might be able to do, Yogita, I don't know if you can, but there is a link for assessing whether you have sleep apnea. Some people who snore quite heavily could be at risk of having sleep apnea. And that's something that we do talk about again in the sleep webinar, isn't it, Sarah? So I don't know if you can expand on that at all, but we sometimes wonder if when people are not feeling refreshed after waking, whether they are experiencing some sleep apnea. So that might be something. Yogita, if you can find the link, oh, brilliant, thank you. There's a link that we've just shared in the chat box, which is a way of just really checking in whether this might be something that would be helpful for your GP and yourself to consider in terms of your wider health.
Yeah, definitely.
But also weight loss per se can actually help with some of these issues too, can't it?
They can indeed, yeah. There's a couple of questions around time of day to exercise. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ruth, but the research suggests that if you can exercise earlier in the day, sort of morning, early afternoon, or sort of very, very early evening, that is better. It's better for weight loss. It's also better for sleep. But everybody has got busy lives, and sometimes that's not achievable. And I would suggest that it's far better to be incorporating exercise, even if it's in the later evening, than it is not to be doing it at all.
It's very good. I totally agree with you for that. Somebody is asking about protein and inflammatory disease. So I think that's quite a broad question, difficult to really know what it is you're hoping to understand. But I would say that in terms of inflammatory disease, just maybe following the Mediterranean style of eating would be the approach that we would recommend for you. So you can absolutely have protein, but also really focus on bringing in some of those healthier fats, so like the oily fish, olives, avocado, nuts and seeds, and all of those healthy fats can help with respect to reducing inflammation.
Yeah. Just a question about ideal weight loss per week. I'd say that's actually quite a tricky one to answer, and it depends on where you are in your weight loss journey. But we would probably say about 0.5 kilograms a week would be a reasonable sort of amount to aim for, or a pound a week. But initially it tends to be, when you start on a weight loss journey, it's a little bit easier to lose weight, and then people often reach a plateau period that can go on from any number of weeks to months. So don't be disheartened if you've initially kind of had quite positive weight loss and then it slows down, that is very, very normal. And it's important that you just continue with all of your dietary changes, all of your lifestyle changes to continue to support that, because you will be having a positive effect, and weight loss will sort of follow further down the line. But probably aim for about sort of half a kilogram a week or a pound a week would be reasonable and sustainable.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me as well. Good. We've done that. Great. Oh, I'm on the wrong box. Okay, so somebody's asking about fizzy drinks rather than, say, diet fizzy drinks. Are they preferable to sugar-rich fizzy drinks? No, not really. I think that's my short answer. I suppose if you have to have one and you're trying to lose weight, then one diet soda might be preferable to a sugar-filled soda. But really and truly, the problem that we have is that we know that the body is going to receive a message that it's getting something sugary, even though it's having a sort of a low sugar alternative. So you'll still have the same physiological response to that diet drink as you would to a sugar-filled drink. Your body is going to get a message it's had something very sugary. It's going to produce some insulin to cope with all of the sugar it hasn't received. So you can end up with a whole surplus of insulin hanging around as well. So overall, you could feel really rubbish as a result of that whole process. We recommend as much as you can just going over to more natural drinks as much as possible. But, you know, an occasional treat, if you really love those fizzy drinks, then that's absolutely fine. Just try not to make it something you have several times a day.
Someone's asking a question. What resistance exercise do you recommend for people with lower back issues or injuries? Well, first of all, I'd suggest that, you know, I would seek some extra support for the lower back pain or the lower back injury. You should probably be doing some core work around strengthening sort of the core muscles to support your back. But there's no reason you shouldn't still be doing kind of the resistance bands to work the upper limbs. You can use resistance bands for the lower limbs as well. There's sort of lots of exercises online that shouldn't impact on sort of the lower back pain. Using some free weights as well if your technique is good. Using free weights for your sort of upper body, again, shouldn't really have too much of an impact on your back. But if you've got significant injury or a lot of discomfort, then I would suggest asking, either going to your GP and asking for a physio referral, or just seeking sort of support privately, just to give you, I guess, a more appropriate resistance training kind of regime.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Sarah. It's really helpful. Somebody's saying that they feel like being in pain leads them to overeat. It might be that you're overeating as a distraction strategy. So I would really recommend that you perhaps bring on board some other things that can bring you that distraction. So it could be that you read a book or take a bath, or you do sort of like a mental mind game, or you know, phone a friend. All of the things that we would recommend for anybody who's eating a little bit too regularly, and that can really trip up the whole sort of ability to lose weight, even if your calorie intake across the day is similar to what it would have been if you were eating less frequently, because each time you eat, you have to create some insulin. And also, when you're thinking about pain, it's very linked to inflammation. So we want to calm that inflammation down as much as we can. So eating less often could potentially be helpful in the long run, in terms of your overall health management as well. Sarah, do you want to add anything with that?
I think you've covered it. I think there's a very good webinar we do on the self-care basket, and that goes through like a number of different distraction strategies. So that might be worth having a look at too.
Definitely. Brilliant. So I think that very nicely brings us to the end of today's webinar. Sarah, we'll look forward to very much seeing you again soon, hopefully, on one of your days when you're in with us. And really great to have everyone here today. Thank you so much for your time. Sorry about my IT failings. I really was not expecting that.
And thanks again for joining us. It's been a real pleasure being here with you and helping answer your questions. And we'll see you again next week.
And thanks to Jigita for being here with us today as well and saving our bacon.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
See you soon, Ruth. Bye.
Bye.